Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Camren Friesen. I'm from Manitoba, Canada, and this is My Brain, My Story. On March 23rd, 2019, my wife brought me into the hospital. I had been dealing with mild flu-like symptoms, accompanied with hiccups for the last week. On that day, I had dozed off sitting on the couch. And my wife, when she came up, she thought it was strange the way I was sitting there with my head back. She tried to wake me and found it difficult to do so. When she finally did, she was very insistent on taking me to the hospital. The nurses also took things very seriously as they noticed that something was very wrong. And they started running blood tests. When the doctor came in, he also decided he was going to give me a spinal tap. And I remember asking him, so one of the few things I remember is that, is this going to hurt? And I don't remember what his answer was, but it didn't hurt. It was all good. It was at this time I was diagnosed with meningitis, and I spent the night in the Steinbach Hospital. The next day I was transferred to the Winnipeg Hospital, St. Boniface, where they were going to check to see if it was viral or bacterial meningitis. When I got there, they did a lot more testing, as well as the MRI. And at that time was diagnosed with viral meningitis and encephalitis. And spent 2 weeks in the Winnipeg St. Boniface Hospital, which I do not remember a lot of it, as the memory just is not there. I do remember a couple things though, and that is that at some point they told me that this could change my personality, which kind of freaked me a little bit, and that they were going to take my drivers away for 6 months. And my thinking at that point was, well, how do you do my job? And just not thinking very clear. This ended up being 8 months, actually, that I did have my drivers taken away. I remember as I was being released, there's two things I prayed for. One is I prayed that God would put the right people in my life at the right time. And I prayed that this would help me to be a better person, not a bitter person. Why I came up with those two, I don't know. But it definitely was the right thing to pray about. I was just starting the toughest journey of my life, but I really didn't understand what was going on. I'd never heard of these illnesses, and really had no idea what was waiting ahead of me. And nobody really prepared me for anything, not any indication of what I could look, what could happen. But 3 months after I got home from the hospital, middle of the night, I got an incredible anxiety attack, which I didn't know what it was. My hands and feet were tingling out crazy. My head felt like there's sparks coming out of it. I was so scared. And that's how my summer was, going in and out of the hospital with these crazy attacks, till one nurse sat me down one time and she says, "Kevin, this is your illness. You have to learn to deal with this." And that was a wake-up call, and it was good. And I remember the one day sitting on the couch and just realizing I couldn't do this on my own, because I was also dealing with being overwhelmed so quickly from noise and busyness. And I'd get this strange headspace at times, and it just would make me cry. And it was just crazy, and I just knew I couldn't do this by myself. And so a friend suggested that I sign up on a program in our church called Stephen's Ministry. And so my Stephen's Ministry was Jeremy, and he came along. He was just a super nice guy. And he'd take me out for coffee. And as I couldn't drive, he was the one driving, and he just let me talk. And it's exactly what I needed. There was no agendas. It just was me talking to him and him listening, and just enjoying our coffee. And he's the guy that said, "Kevin, get your camera gear. We're going out." And this was the first time in 7 months that I had done any photography. I had no desire at that point to do any photography, and so we headed out. And I can remember sitting underneath a bridge with the Seine River flowing in front of me, and it felt awesome. It felt so wonderful to be out there with my camera and being creative. And later, when he dropped me off, he asked if he could pray for me. I said yes, and he prayed for me. And I walked into the house. I had such incredible peace. It was so wonderful. That was the start of photography really being a part of my journey, and how it changed from different fears that I had, because I had this crazy fear. When I did finally get my drivers back, which was great, Julie helped me get them back, it was great getting my drivers back, but I just couldn't deal with this fear that I had when I was up there by myself. And it was just something I'd never experienced before. But when I get down behind my camera and be doing, I could get away from that, especially with my anxiety. It was just gone, and it was so good to be out there. And at times Julie would come with me, and that helped with my fears, and that was great. But I needed to deal with this on my own. And then along came COVID at the same time I was trying to get back to work. And this was incredibly stressful, doing both of them at the same time. There were so many mandates as a proctor, and they were good to be there. It made sense, the mandates, but at the same time it was very stressful. And a short time while after that, my mother in 2020 October passed away. That was tough. And then also me being one of the executors for her estate, that was also very tough. And this just all added to my stress. And I was not doing well. Fatigue was just incredible. After I get home from a day of work, I was so tired, mentally, physically, emotionally. I was just exhausted. At some point, Julie recognized that me doing this job just was not working. And along with my kids, they encouraged me to retire. And this was really a tough part of my journey to retire. It was at that time that the Stony Ridge herd came into my life, thanks to Kathleen and Brian. They let me know that anytime I needed to go out to the herd to take pictures of the horses, just hang out with the horses, it was wonderful. It was so needed at that time. When I had symptoms that were crazy with anxiety, with my tingling hands and feet, whatever my symptoms were, I'd head out there. And it didn't take long, and I totally forgot even why I originally came there. I would just totally get lost with these wonderful animals and being creative around them. It was, and again, my photography changed at that time. It wasn't the birds and squirrels that I was shooting in my backyard when I was scared. It was now horses. I always wanted to be a cowboy as a kid. And God has a funny sense of humor. He was going to make me a cowboy at this point, I guess. And it's been so wonderful photographing these horses. I would say retirement has not been easy, but it was the right choice. I don't have to worry about pulling myself together for the next day and having to, get ready for the work next day. And I was missing so much work, and it's not fair to the mental health care worker, it's not fair to the client. And so it was the right thing to do. There's times throughout this journey where I've been really down on myself. And it's been at those times that my daughter has on at least 2 occasions said, "Dad, you do not know how far you've come. I gotta, stop beating myself up." I've scheduled myself somewhat where I get up and I do certain things. I don't overschedule myself because I find that I get overwhelmed very quickly. Fatigue kicks in and headaches, and so I got to be somewhat careful. And Julie's always monitoring me. She says, take a break, take a break. And this is just what I have to do. And my GP has been awesome throughout this whole thing. And he set me up with a psychologist, and she was incredible in helping me learn to deal with some of my side effects, my symptoms. So every morning I go to Coffee Culture and I spend time there doing my homework, editing photos, spending time praying, listening to music quietly. Some of the really tough things on this journey, besides the side effects, is when you have friends, family, that just don't understand and don't get it. And I don't want them to understand it, I just want them to accept it. So it's been a real tough thing on my relationships. And in some cases I've had to let go. In other cases I've gained new friends, which has been wonderful. The new friends are really supportive. My family has been fantastic. My wife is a rock. I love her so much. And my faith has been critically important to me. My faith in God throughout this process has also grown. And I'm not sure if I'd be here without him. I don't know. Many times sitting on the couch, I don't know. I didn't know what I wanted, how things were going to go in the future, if this is how I had to live. This last summer, as a family holiday, we went to Nova Scotia. And I remember the one late afternoon evening spent at Peggy's Cove photographing the lighthouse there. I had such incredible peace. It was so wonderful. Every once in a while I had to tell the wind, "You're dealing with a Manitoba boy. We have winds of -40. I'm sorry, this just is not going to scare me off." It was so good up there. And when I look back at this picture, I remember that wonderful feeling I had at that time. And it also makes me realize that I want to be like this lighthouse, and that I want to be a light in this dark world. I want to be a difference maker. I still have a lot of purpose in life. I got a second chance. Another thing I picked up on more recently is I work on a grateful journal. I try to do that every morning, if not, then later on. And I just find it so good if I can come up with these 3 things that I'm grateful for. And even if it's just the coffee I'm drinking or the pen I'm writing with. But there's always things to be grateful for in our life. And throughout this journey, God has put so many blessings in my life. And as much as it's been so tough, there's been so many wonderful things happening in my life. So many things to be grateful for. If anyone out there is watching this event and you're dealing with crazy side effects, symptoms from encephalitis, I want to let you know there is a hope. Do not give up. Do not give up. There is hope. There is purpose why you are here. You have another chance. And in fact, when you're feeling these symptoms, remind yourself that means that you're still alive. And in all our brokenness, there can be breakthrough. And again, I just want to thank the Encephalitis Society for this opportunity. It's been challenging, it's been stretching, which is good. And just thank you guys for all what you do. God bless.